Have you ever wondered how a tiny percentage shift in trade policy can quietly drain over $1,000 from your wallet each year? In a stunning revelation by the Budget Lab at Yale University, new tariff proposals on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China could strip the average American household of up to $1,200 in purchasing power each year. This isn't just a number, it's money that could mean better healthcare, a dream vacation, or even a safety net for unexpected expenses. As lawmakers push for tariffs designed to boost domestic manufacturing, the ripple effects are poised to hit our wallets hard. In this script, we break down how a seemingly small increase in tariff rates from 2.5% to over 7% can trigger a dramatic surge in prices, fundamentally altering the way everyday Americans spend their money. Chapter 1. Setting the stage. The tariff tensions. On February 1, 2025, President Donald Trump set the stage for what many are calling a full-blown trade war by signing executive orders that impose tariffs on imports from three of the United States' largest trading partners, Mexico and China. Under these orders, most goods from Canada and Mexico were slated to face a steep 25% tariff, while imports from China would incur a 10% tariff. This move came as part of the Trump administration's effort to curb illegal immigration and halt the flow of dangerous fentanyl into the country, a justification that, despite its political appeal, has been widely disputed by experts. In response to these new tariffs, Canada, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, immediately announced a retaliatory package valued at $155 billion in U.S. goods. In its first phase, this countermeasure targets $30 billion worth of products ranging from everyday items like orange juice, peanut butter, wine, beer, and household appliances. Such a massive scale of tariffs is not only a geopolitical signal, but also a potential economic shockwave, as U.S. imports from these countries total more than $1.8 trillion annually. For everyday Americans, this means that items you pick up at the local grocery store or electronics shop could cost significantly more. If you notice your favorite jar of peanut butter or that much loved bottle of wine becomes pricier, these changes are directly linked to the new tariffs and countermeasures unfolding at the international level. Chapter 2. Understanding the tariff strategy and its rationale. The Trump administration's tariff strategy is driven by two primary objectives. First, it aims to reduce illegal immigration and the smuggling of drugs, particularly fentanyl, into the United States. Even though data indicate that less than 1% of illegal fentanyl enters the U.S. via Canada, the administration is using this issue to justify significant trade barriers. Second, these tariffs are meant to address the persistent U.S. trade deficits, especially with Canada. In 2023, bilateral trade between the U.S. and Canada reached nearly $922.5 billion, with the U.S. manufacturing trade deficit alone standing at approximately $33 billion. While many Americans are aware of these numbers, policymakers are now using them to pressure foreign governments into making concessions. This political stance is not without its everyday implications. For instance, if you're planning to purchase a new car, one that is assembled using parts that cross the border multiple times, you might soon face a price tag that is several $1,000s higher. American households, which currently bear an estimated additional tax burden of over $800 per year from tariffs on Chinese imports alone, may soon see even steeper increases if tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods are fully implemented. As these policies ripple through the supply chain, the cost of everyday items you rely on is set to increase, directly affecting your personal budget. Chapter 3. Economic fallout. Impact on the U.S. economy and jobs. When we look at the broader economic fallout, the picture becomes even more concerning. Economists predict that supply chains across the United States will be significantly disrupted by these tariffs, forcing companies to absorb higher production costs that eventually get passed on to consumers. Recent studies suggest that consumer prices could rise by an average of 0.5 to 2.2%, a change that may seem modest in percentage terms, but translates into higher monthly expenses for every household. Furthermore, research indicates that over 400,000 American jobs could be at risk as businesses adjust to these new cost pressures. In regions like the Midwest, where auto manufacturing is a major employer, job losses could be particularly severe. For instance, if you work in an auto parts factory or an assembly plant, your job security may be threatened by these macroeconomic changes. Additionally, the Tax Foundation estimates that the new tariff regime could add over $800 to the annual expenses of the typical U.S. household. For families, this means tighter budgets and more careful spending. Whether it's paying a bit more for groceries or facing the prospect of higher car payments, these economic pressures will have a direct impact on your day-to-day life. Job uncertainty might also lead to reduced household income, making it even more challenging to plan for future expenses. Chapter 4: Political and Social Repercussions. The political and social repercussions of this trade war are also profound. A recent Reuters poll revealed that 54% of American voters now oppose these tariffs, a sentiment echoed by a sharp drop in consumer confidence. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index has recently fallen by 7 points to 98.3, its lowest level in 8 months. This decline in confidence is not just a number. It represents the growing anxiety among everyday Americans about rising prices and economic instability. This political narrative has fueled cultural and social responses as well. Across the United States, while some Trump supporters have hailed the tariffs as a necessary measure to protect American jobs, many consumers have taken to social media to express their frustration. For many families, the fear of a rising cost of living is very real. Increased prices at the checkout, higher gasoline costs, and even the possibility of delayed investments in homes or vehicles are concerns that directly affect your quality of life. When you hear discussions about trade policies and tariffs on the news, know that these aren't just abstract numbers. They directly influence the prices you pay at the store and the job security in your community. Chapter 5: Future Prospects. Ongoing negotiations and what's next as negotiations between the US, Canada, and Mexico continue. Both Canada and Mexico have agreed to a temporary 30-day pause on the new tariffs to work out additional security measures. For example, Mexican officials have promised to deploy 10,000 National Guard troops to their border, and Canada is investing $1.3 billion in advanced surveillance and infrastructure. While these temporary measures may offer a short-term reprieve, the underlying uncertainty remains. U.S. advisors have signaled that additional tariffs, possibly on auto parts, electronics, steel, and other goods, could be introduced in the coming months. Some analysts predict that if these tariffs are expanded further, U.S. vehicle prices could rise by as much as $2,700 an average, placing a heavy burden on families already facing high costs. For everyday consumers, this means a difficult choice: whether to make big purchases now before the full impact of the tariff sets in, or delay them in the hope that negotiations might eventually lead to lower prices. This uncertainty forces you to weigh your options carefully. If you're planning to buy a car, a new television, or even a refrigerator, you might decide to act sooner rather than later to avoid potential price hikes. Chapter 6: Broader Implications for Everyday Living. Zooming out, the broader implications of these tariff policies become even more clear. U.S. imports from Canada, Mexico, and China make up nearly 42% of all products entering the country. If the average tariff rate on these goods were to triple from about 2.5% to over 7%, the resulting price increases could have a dramatic effect on household spending. Analysts at the Tax Foundation and the Budget Lab at Yale University project that American consumers might lose up to $1,200 in purchasing power annually due to these tariffs. For a family carefully budgeting each month, this loss means fewer resources for essentials like healthcare, education, or leisure activities. Imagine having to pay an extra $50 in your monthly grocery bill, or noticing that your monthly auto insurance premiums have increased because of higher costs in imported auto parts. These seemingly small changes add up over the year and place a strain on household budgets, especially for lower-income families who spend a larger share of their income on physical goods. Furthermore, this uncertainty may force businesses to pass on their increased costs by raising prices, reduce hiring, or even cut back on investments. In practical terms, this means that the quality of services in your community, from local schools to public transportation, could suffer, affecting everything from your commute to your children's education. In conclusion, Canada's $155 billion retaliatory tariff package and the subsequent U.S. tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China are not just abstract policy shifts. They are real changes that will affect your everyday life. Whether you notice higher prices at the grocery store, more expensive cars, or increased gas prices, the impact of these trade policies is set to touch every aspect of our daily routines. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. How do you plan to adjust your budget in light of these changes? Have you already noticed a difference in the prices of your everyday essentials? The world now stands at a crossroads. The decisions made today by governments, corporations, and global policymakers will determine whether this trade war propels economies towards self-sufficiency or drags them into prolonged volatility. One thing is certain: this trade war is not just a battle between two nations, it is shaping the future of global trade as we know it. So, what do you think? Is this economic confrontation a necessary step toward independence, or is it a dangerous game that could lead to long-term economic hardship? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on the latest developments in global trade, don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth analysis and discussions on the evolving economic landscape.